Kickoff is right around the corner. But first, Jordan Hirsh and Mercer County Hall of Famer Rich Fisher are getting you ready for all of the weekend's action across Bucks and Mercer Counties right here on Friday Night Hype. While the players warm up and the fans file in, Jordan and Fish discuss stats, schemes, and game plans and give their predictions on what's going to happen on the local gridirons. Today's show is proudly brought to you by the Capital Health System and Anthony Petsis and Associates. Now it's time for Friday Night Hype!
Hello and welcome into another edition of Friday Night Hype. I am your host, Jordan Hirsh. I'm joined by the Mercer County Hall of Famer, Rich Fisher. He's on the line once again for this installment of Friday Night Hype. Lots of games to get to today, Fish. We got a lot of interdivisional play. We're going to do our best to get to as many games as possible with a lot of these Mercer County teams playing squads from all around the state. A lot of teams playing some teams from South Jersey, Burlington County area as well. So we got a lot to get to today, Fish. You excited?
I'm always excited to be doing this show with you, pal.
Hey, that's what we love to hear. All right. Enough of that, though. Enough of us voicing our excitement, and let's just get into this because we got all these games that we got to go over. And let's start with Highland taking on Notre Dame. The Irish come into this one at 1-4. Highland is 2-3. This game's going off tonight at 6 o'clock on the network on WBCB Sports over on our YouTube channel. And Fish, last week, Notre Dame, they really had just no answers in their loss to Steinert and Isaac Pate. They really could not shut down that run game at all. Pate rushed for 217 yards. Notre Dame allowed 284 total yards on the ground. And now the Irish sit at 1-4 with this matchup against Highland out of the WJFL Freedom Division. This is a winnable game for the Irish. They did beat Highland 41-16 last year. And quite honestly, this is one the Irish got to have.
Yeah, I kind of throw out last year's result as this is a really different Notre Dame team this year. And Highland's the classic team that wins the games it should win and loses the games it should lose. They're looking for a win over a better team. I know you'll break down the numbers on that later in the segment. It's important to note that the Tartans average less than 100 yards per game rushing, which has really been the Irish's Achilles heel, run defense. So, yeah, I mean, that sort of plays into Notre Dame. Hopefully, Notre Dame can shut them down, their running game. And, yeah, I mean, all things considered, this is a matchup that the Irish really have to win.
And look, through 5 games, it's become clear that the Notre Dame offense is going to just simply have to outplay some of the deficiencies of their defense, meaning Matt Roush and company. They have to step up. And in no way is this me making an excuse for the Notre Dame defense that's allowing over 30 points per game. It's the worst mark in the WJFL Capital Division. But there hasn't really been much improvement week to week in that department. And as a result, I feel that Roush is going to have to put the team on his shoulders if they want to make this late season push. This team, they have talent on offense. The question is now, do they have enough talent to overcome their defensive woes? That's what we now have to find out.
Yeah, I mean, Roush has been really good this year, and the Irish are starting to get more out of their running game with Jaden Davis and a few other guys. So the offense is becoming a bit more balanced, which is a good sign for Notre Dame. But you are correct. I mean, there's pressure on the offense to produce because the Irish are allowing, just over 30 points per game. And Notre Dame's offenses, they're frequently finding themselves in a position where they have to rally back. And, that can not only take a toll on an offense, but it doesn't give you the luxury of sort of trying to establish that running game and everything. You're kind of passing to get back into the game. So, do I think Notre Dame has the offense to do this? Yeah. I mean, but they got to avoid some turnovers. They had some really key turnovers last week. So we'll see. As long as that running game keeps getting better. I mean, Roush has shown a pretty lot this year.
Yeah, you're right. Notre Dame, they fell 26-18 to Steinert last week. They did have some ill-timed turnovers, one of them being in the end zone as well. And for this game now this week, it's definitely winnable for Notre Dame. But like you kind of alluded to, Highland, they could be a little bit better than their record indicates. They lost the first 3 games of the season to Southern at the Battle at the Beach. Winslow, who is one of, if not the best public team in the state, and then Pennsauken. Now, those 3 teams have a combined record right now of 12-3. Since that point, Highland has not allowed a single point in wins at Clearview and Cherry Hill West. They shut both of them out. It's worth noting those 2 teams are combined 2-8. So Highland's strength, it's their defense. While their offense hasn't really gotten off the ground so far, their quarterback, just a sophomore, Elijah Capra, he's 26 of 80. That's 32.5%. He's thrown for 357 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. Their run game, not much better, averaging just 3.5 yards per carry. They've rushed for just 429 yards through 5 games. This certainly is not the toughest test for the Irish defense. And so if the offense can avoid some of those ill-timed turnovers, get some big plays, I think Notre Dame has a very good shot tonight.
Yeah, and that's the point. You make the point about the turnovers, and they had 2 really costly interceptions last week. The one you mentioned in the end zone near the end of the half, that stopped the drive, and the other came near the end of the game when they were trying to tie the score. So, they always say good defenses beat good offenses. I know you're not a proponent of that, and in this case, I'm not either. I think the Irish defense has struggled, and I think this is a game where it can gain some confidence against that offense. And I think Notre Dame's offense has looked much improved this past week. So even if Highland does have a pretty good defense, I think Notre Dame will figure out ways to score points.
I agree, and I think this is a very evenly matched game as well, and that leads me to my prediction. I think this game's going to be close all the way throughout, and I do think Notre Dame does come out on top here. I think the defense just does just enough. I think Matt Roush and company, they're able to make the big plays when they need to. I've got the Irish winning this one 24-21.
Yeah, I take Notre Dame too, 28-17.
All right, little 2-score win. Fish is predicting for Notre Dame. So we both have the Irish getting their second win of the season. Another team in search of their second win of the season, the 1-4 Allentown Redbirds. They've got a real tough test going on the road, taking on Northern Burlington, a team that comes in at 4-1. This game also goes off tonight at 6 o'clock. And Fish, the Redbirds really got it taken to them last week, a 50-7 loss against Hopewell Valley. That was a game the 2 of us kind of went back and forth on, discussing if the Redbirds could maybe keep that game close. Unfortunately for them, they could not. The offense that really had seen a steady improvement over the first four weeks, it stalled big time last week. They could only produce 131 total yards. Anthony O'Rourke went just 3 for 13 for 23 yards. And he was also the team's leading rusher, 66 yards on 7 carries. So after keeping it close with Steinert and beating Nottingham, Allentown, you got to believe they were feeling like their season could be turning around. But after this blowout loss and now a very tough schedule over the next couple weeks, Redbirds all of a sudden in a very precarious spot.
Yeah, that was a step backward for Allentown last week. But I got to tell you, Hopewell is making a lot of teams step backward as they're off to another great start. And, yeah, it gets no easier with Northern Burlington this week. So, I mean, I don't know what to say. The Redbirds have to take a giant step forward from what they did last week in order to compete in this game. And, yeah, precarious is the word, I think.
Yeah, this is certainly a very difficult task that they've got tonight, going on the road and facing a very good, very talented Northern Burlington squad. And for Allentown now, I'm going to be very interested to see how they go about the rest of their season. A lot of their skill position players are seniors, so you're not quite focusing solely on development like maybe a younger team like a West Windsor-Plainsboro United team would. But at the same time, you still have to worry about making improvements every week. as well as this, like especially at this level where you're still like teaching some guys like maybe the fundamentals of the game, and like all these high school players, despite being seniors, they're still learning in a way as they move on during their journey here playing football. And Coach Andrew Lockenmeyer, he almost has to do this balancing act, I feel like, between developing players, since despite like the fact many of these guys are seniors, it's also their first full season as starters. So he's got to balance that with also looking to make a late season push and maybe surprise some people by getting some big wins up on the board. He's got a very interesting, like he could play this multiple different ways, and I want to get your thoughts on it, Fish. Just what do you think that Coach Lockenmeyer could do? Because on the one hand, you've got a bunch of seniors, but on the other hand, you're still looking to develop talent here and make a late season push.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting point, and I don't really think I have an answer for that one because every coach thinks differently about their players. Some coaches feel loyalty to the seniors who, even though this is their first year starting, they've been in the program for 4 years. They've worked hard at practice. They've put all their time in, waiting just for this year to come out and play some varsity high school football. And some coaches don't want to watch a kid buy into everything for so long and then just take it away from them, when they waited this long. But then there's other coaches who do start to think ahead toward next year and try and infiltrate the lineup with some younger players and try to give them some experience. So, I'm not going to pretend to know how Andrew is going to approach this. I really don't know. I would say this. If it was me, I would stay loyal to my senior. I mean, if it's a good bunch of seniors, I mean, sometimes you get a bad bunch of kids. I don't know. I don't know what Allentown seniors are like, but if they're pretty good kids, I'd stay loyal to my seniors. I mean, this isn't Texas football where every game is life or death and everything like that. This is Mercer County football, and I think, unless you're playing for a championship or something like that, I would just let those seniors have fun for the year. I mean, they earned it, they deserved it. But that's just me. I'm not a coach, so I don't know what kind of pressures there are on coaches. But that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, I agree with you, Fish. I think that also gives the team the best chance to win, going out there with the guys that have been there the entire season. And just because a lot of them, it is their first year starting. Allentown was a team that had a lot of changeover from last year into this season, and now it's an older group, but younger in terms of their experience level. Giving them a full season, I think, is definitely something that they deserve as well. Now let's get back into this game, because Allentown, Northern Burlington, I think this is kind of the classic case of you can never really, take what's happened in a series, like going back to last year specifically. You always have to take that with a grain of salt, because Allentown hammered Northern Burlington last year, 34-zip. But like I mentioned, Allentown, they look very different this year. Northern Burlington is the same way. Their lone loss this season is to Delran, another 4-1 team. They've won 3 games by 3 or more scores this season. They've got a fearsome rushing attack, 4 players north of 100 yards on the ground. They're led by their mobile quarterback, junior Brent Walulak. He's 43 for 81, 572 yards, 6 touchdowns, and no interceptions. He's also rushed the ball 53 times for 329 yards and 6 touchdowns on top of that. On defense, they've collected 9 sacks, and 6 different players have a pick. So plain and simple, Northern Burlington does a lot of the little things right. They don't turn the ball over, and they force turnovers. They've forced 10 turnovers so far this season, and they're much improved from last year.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is a huge challenge, plain and simple. The schedule maker didn't do Allentown any favors, putting Hopewell and Northern back to back. You got to play what's out there, and I'm not sure how Allentown is able to attack this, and but you got to play the games, and you never know. I mean, maybe Northern's looking a little past Allentown because of their record, but then again, you think about last year's game, and the guys that are back want revenge from that game. So this is a very tall task for Allentown. They just got to go out there and try to hang in there and maybe steal one at the end.
All right, Fish. I don't think either of us super confident in the Redbirds this week, but I'll let you go first with your prediction for this game.
Well, I would say Northern 33-7.
All right, I've got Northern winning this one 28-9. So through the first two games, we're on the same page with our predictions. We've got Notre Dame winning, Allentown falling this week. And do not go anywhere, because when we come back, still a bunch of games to get to. We're going to go over Eastern taking on Trenton, as well as one of the few games going off between a pair of Mercer County teams. West Windsor, they're on the road at Lawrence this week. We'll get to those two games. When we come back, you're listening to Friday Night Hype right here on WBCB 1490 AM, 107.3 FM, as well as on YouTube at WBCB Sports.
Capital Health's primary care network continues to grow, bringing its extensive option of locations to your neighborhood. Whether you're scheduling a wellness checkup or not feeling well, advanced medicine starts with a Capital Health primary care doctor at locations near you in Mercer, Bucks, and Burlington counties. To find a Capital Health primary care location that's convenient for you, visit capitalmedicalgroup.org. That's capitalmedicalgroup.org.
We interrupt your regularly scheduled programming with breaking news out of Pennsylvania.
Two of the region's fastest-growing media companies, Broad and Liberty and Access Network, have joined forces to launch a bold new voice in local journalism, Fideri News Network.
That's what we're hearing. From Harrisburg to Lancaster to Philadelphia and the Jersey Shore, Fideri brings together WBCB Radio, Broad and Liberty, Politics PA, and Access's trusted community news sites.
From school board showdowns to local crime coverage, high school and pro sports, short-form video, podcasts, and breaking news, Fideri now delivers trusted local journalism to Pennsylvania and New Jersey's largest native digital media audience.
Quite the impact. Now we see here that Fideri is Latin for to trust. And that's the mission behind Fideri News Network, the company reports, because trust isn't given, it's earned, one story at a time.
For more information, visit www.fiderinews.com.
Do you feel the need for speed and are a car racing fan? Then tune in every Thursday morning at 9:30 a.m. for the Need for Speed Auto Show, hosted by me, America's mechanic, Fred Fletcher. Everything you want to know about our local tracks and races to the NASCAR scene, as well as our area car shows and cruise nights. Brought to you by Fletcher's Garage in Fairless Hills and heard every Thursday morning at 9:30 on WBCB 1490 AM, 107.3 FM, and throughout the world at WBCB1490.com.
You're listening to Friday Night Hype on WBCB 1490 AM and 107.3 FM. Friday Night Hype is proudly brought to you by the Capital Health System and Anthony Petsis and Associates. Now back to your hosts, Jordan Hirsh and Rick.
Hall of Famer Rich Fisher. And Fish, before we can continue with the show, I gotta let everybody know about our brand new WBCB Sports Instagram page that we've got. You can head over to Instagram, give us a follow at WBCB_SN, posting all sorts of high school football and just overall high school sports content over on the Instagram page, posting post-game player interviews, highlight reels. We're talking about this show as well as my other show, High School Huddle, that goes off on Thursdays from 4 to 5. Some behind-the-scenes content from our Coaches Roundtable that goes off over at Sandy's Beef and Ale every Wednesday night. So make sure you head over to Instagram, WBCB_SN. Give us a follow if you want even more high school sports content in and around Bucks and Mercer County. But back here for this show now, we're moving right along, and now we've got another good matchup to talk about. Two teams over 500 going at it. Eastern taking on Trenton. Both of these teams come in at 3-2. This game is another one that gets going in just a couple hours, 6 o'clock tonight on WBCB. Fish is going to be on the call for this one. And this is a real good matchup, Fish. Trenton, they fell victim to a red-hot Ewing team last week, lost 27-13. The passing defense really struggled. They allowed Ewing quarterback Ryan Gregg to go 13 of 15 for 198 yards and 2 touchdowns. But this game really swung in the third quarter. Trenton tied the game at 13, but then Ewing's Nadir Grignard ran the ensuing kickoff back. That gave the Blue Devils the lead for good. Trenton's offense didn't really have many problems moving the football. They just actually struggled to get points up on the board. Keith Williams, their quarterback, threw for a career-high 229 yards. He went 22 of 34 and a touchdown as well in that game. So it kind of comes as a surprise they could only muster those 13 points against a Ewing defense that has struggled at times this year. But one thing is for certain that we found out in this game, the Tornadoes, they've got themselves a legit quarterback in Williams, and he's only a junior.
Yeah, Williams he's showing very well this year. I mean, he's progressing each game, and that's a great sign. But, yeah, Trenton's kind of hit a lull over the past 3 weeks, and they're going to have to clean up a few things on offense to be able to finish these drives. Williams definitely a weapon with his arm, and also down near the goal line, he has 3 touchdown runs. But from everything you just pointed out, the Tornadoes have to fix some things for this week's game. They, special teams giving up the return and everything else, and the talent is there for the Tornadoes, but the execution has to be better.
I agree, and especially going up against a 3-2 Eastern squad, this team's very good. They're 3-2. Their 2 losses are against Cherry Hill East and Pennsauken. Those 2 teams are combined 9-1, and both of those losses are by just 1 score. They're a run-heavy team. They're led by senior Max Cutler, who's got 59 carries, 383 yards, and a touchdown. And they've got a real impressive freshman as well, Ashad Carter, 48 carries, 289 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Their quarterback, Nick Carreri, he's having himself a good year. He's 47 for 82, 528 yards, 7 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. And their leading receiver is junior Terry Cook, who has 18 catches, 256 yards, and 4 touchdowns. This is a Trenton defense that's kind of gone up and down at times this season. At the beginning of the year, they were very good. You mentioned they've kind of hit a lull these last few weeks, and they're going to have their hands full tonight because this is a very talented Eastern offense.
Yeah, Eastern's, they are run-heavy, but fortunately for them, they don't rely solely on the run. They can throw the ball as well, just going from those stats you just mentioned. And, that obviously is going to make it that much harder to defend. And, then you break it down even more to the running game, and now you can't just worry about one back. You got to worry about 2 backs that you got to be concerned with. And then the passing game, can really keep the defense honest. You can't just load up the box. So, yeah, this is a big time challenge for Trenton. So, they have the talent, but how are they gonna match up with these guys, and are they gonna play a clean game?
And I will say this when it comes to Trenton, there is some good news for the Tornadoes, and that's that despite the fact that this Eastern roster, it's riddled with talent, it really hasn't quite all come together for them yet. They've only scored over 23 points twice. Now, it's been in their last 2 games. They also needed a 4th quarter touchdown and 2-point conversion to sneak past a Vineland team earlier this year. That team only has 1 win. So Eastern's a squad that in all likelihood, they may leave the door open for Trenton in this one. Just if you go back and look at the way their season has gone so far. But it's going to be on the Tornadoes to take advantage if they do get presented with an opportunity to win this game.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of like to think that maybe Eastern will leave the door open, but the thing that always worries me about teams that move the ball and then have trouble finishing, teams get better as the years. A good team is going to get better each and every game, and they're going to fix things and they're going to adjust things. And if Eastern starts, finishing these drives and making corrections, I'm guessing that they're having issues in the red zone because they have great offensive stats, but not points. If they're a good team, they're going to start making corrections in the red zone, and maybe finish these drives. And if not, yeah, the door will be open. But it's really critical that the Tornadoes avoid both penalties and turnovers. I mean, that's obvious statement. They're never good for any team, but some teams can afford them less than others. And Trenton is definitely a team that cannot afford them. So they need to play a clean game against these guys. And this way, if that door is open, they can take advantage.
Yeah, and playing a clean game against Eastern hasn't really been Trenton's strong suit over the last handful of seasons, that's for sure. Eastern has won each of the last 8 meetings with Trenton, and 5 of the last 6 have been by 25 points or more. In fact, Eastern, they're outscoring the Tornadoes 152-2 in 4 games since 2021. Fish, you're going to be on the call for this one, so you don't have to make the prediction. I think that Trenton keeps this game a lot closer than some of the previous matchups have been. Unfortunately for the Tornadoes, I think Eastern runs their win streak to 9 consecutive games against Trenton. I've got Eastern in a tight one, 27-25.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you look at this. These are teams similar in size, population-wise. They're both South Jersey Group 5 teams. And you look at the United Power rankings, and both teams have a 3-2 record, but Eastern is ranked number 9 in South Jersey 5 with a UPR of 9. Trenton is 21st with a UPR of 21. That's a huge gap. So, yeah, even though the records are similar and they're a similar size, the power rankings are telling us that Eastern should be considered the favorite in this game.
Yeah, Eastern certainly played a tougher strength of schedule, that's for sure. But we got to move on. There aren't that many games this week, Fish, between a pair of Mercer County teams. This is one of them. It is an interdivision matchup. 0-5 West Windsor-Plainsboro United traveling to face 3-2 Lawrence. This game, another one tonight, 6 o'clock. West Windsor, they were the victim of another blowout loss last week. Lost 42-0 to Hamilton West. They've now been outscored 250-14 this year. And throughout the season, we've talked about how this is a rebuilding year for them, but that it's real hard to teach and develop young players when you're consistently getting beat up every week. So I just want to ask you, Fish, if you're head coach Bill Furlong, where do you go from here?
Well, I think you just have to keep preaching positive reinforcement to your players. Take any little thing that they do right, whether it's a block or a pass breakup or just a good route run by a receiver, and emphasize that to these kids and give them a little pride in what they're doing. It's hard to develop when you are getting beat so badly, but you just have to keep running your plays and running your defensive schemes and try to get them to do it better each time. A lot of this depends on the player's attitude. Coaching staff, that's why coaching staffs need positive reinforcement in situations like this, just to try to keep the attitudes good. I mean, if the attitude has just disintegrated, then that could be a little tough. But, I just think you have to keep looking at the little things and just don't big picture it. Just, hey, look, you did a good job here. You did this good. You made a great cut here. You closed in on the runner here. Those are things you can do as a coach.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way of looking at it. And now West Windsor's opponent this week, Lawrence, they seem poised to make that 21-0 loss against Bordentown a couple weeks ago just a little blip on the radar. They smoked Pemberton last week, 49-14. They only threw the ball 2 times in that game. Running back James Lyons, he had a career day on the ground, 14 carries, 139 yards, 4 touchdowns. He seems well on his way to another 1,000-yard season. He's already up to 622 yards on the ground so far this year. Now, last season, Lyons rushed for 290 yards and 204 yards in his first 2 games as a starter. He doesn't have a 200-yard game since then. Now, my bold prediction for tonight's game is that is going to change. I think the Cardinals' ground game is going to run wild in this one.
You love your bold predictions. You are a bold young man, my friend.
I try to be.
Well, I think you're right. I mean, look, we talk a lot about Isaac Bate at Steinert, but when you talk about the county's best running backs, James Lyons is right up there. And, usually usually when you, meaning you, Jordan Hirsch, makes these predictions, it's about a quarterback, and I always say, well, the coach won't keep throwing in a blowout, so I don't think they'll reach that. But handing off the ball is a little bit different beast, and you're going to hand the ball off, and I think, Lions could go for a lot. I think the only thing that could slow Lions in this one is if Rob Radis takes him out before he's able to get those 200. Coaches do have respect for one another, and no one likes to embarrass another team, especially when they're struggling. So, if he stayed in the game for 48 minutes and they handed off to him 20 times, he'd get 200. I don't know if they're going to do that. They might do, what Hamilton West did last week and try to give some younger guys some carries and see what they can do too. So, we'll see.
Yeah, but I think one thing for certain, though, is if James Lyons gets, to play the full 48 minutes, he's gonna go off in this one. Lawrence also is looking for some revenge. West Windsor beat them up pretty good, despite not having they had a more talented roster last year than this year, but the Cardinals didn't have their best effort when they took on United last season. And so now the Cardinals looking to get to 4-2, and after this game, LHS, they face a real tough schedule to end the season. They still have games against undefeated Burlington City and 4-1 Riverside. And since the Cardinals are in a lighter West Jersey Football League National Division, you feel like they have to win at least one of those games and also then handle their business tonight and in a couple of weeks on the road when they face Pennsbury, which, by the way, is a very far drive for the Cardinals in that one as well. But they got to be able to take care of business to have a shot at the postseason. I like what Rob Radis has been building these last couple of seasons as his team continues to make improvements year to year after a real long portion of pretty consistent losing. But these last 4 weeks, they could be a really good measuring stick just to see where Lawrence football really stands as a program right now.
Yeah, I mean, right now Lawrence has the misfortune of being a Group 4 school, and it's lumped in with it's going against two of the top Group 1 South Jersey Group 1 schools out there. They're both in the top 7 in UPR at South Jersey 1. But so Group 4 playing a Group 1, you're not going to pick up a lot of power points, so I'm not sure how much that's going to help you with the UPR. And the other problem is you're playing really good Group 1 teams. I mean, it's almost hard to consider them Group 1 with the talent that they have. This is a kind of a tough situation for Lawrence. But, they would, if they can beat these two teams, they would still be outstanding wins. And, I think it'd be great to see a player like Lyons be able to experience some big wins like that and knock off some of these schools. I mean, whether it's Group 4, Group 1, you're still going against really good teams. So, it could be a measuring stick. I think so, yes.
Yeah, so Lawrence, again, the real tough schedule. They got to start it with handling business tonight against West Windsor if they want any shot at making a postseason push. I think they do. I think they win this game easily. I've got the Cardinals 43-7.
Yeah, and I take Lawrence 35-6.
All right, so we continue our trend of agreeing on this show. We've been agreeing a lot now the last few weeks, really. Again, what do I like to say? It either proves that we're both really smart or both not so much.
Yeah. But, I mean, we've disagreed maybe on one or two, but, we've been right. So I guess that's good.
It's a good way of looking at it. And you know what? We still got 3 more games to break down and then a whole bunch of other games to mention as well. So we'll step aside. We'll be right back. I think we both are going to agree on what our game of the week is this week. And we're going to talk about that one and a whole lot more coming up right after this on Friday Night Hype.
Join us Thursdays from 1 to 2 for Upwards, where we endeavor to uplift and inspire with health tips from fitness expert Maureen Solomon, consumer protection info from consumer advocate Mike Bannon. Hear about arts and culture events, fundraisers, and people helping people to make this area a nice place to live, work, and play. Upwards, Thursdays at 1 on WBCB.
Today's show is proudly sponsored by Anthony Petsis and Associates, voted the best financial advisory firm in Bucks County for 13 years by the Bucks County Courier-Times. Anthony Petsis and Associates delivers people-centered advice, empowering you to take control of your financial future with confidence. Their firm is committed to helping your family build and preserve wealth for the next 100 years. If you're interested in becoming a client of the top-rated financial advisory firm in Bucks County, please contact Anthony Petsis and Associates at 215-968-6638. That's 215-968-6638. You can also visit their website at apetsis.com. Anthony Petsis and Associates. If you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there.
You're listening to Friday Night Hype on WBCB 1490 AM and 107.3 FM. Friday Night Hype is proudly brought to you by the Capital Health System and Anthony Petsis and Associates. Now back to your hosts, Jordan Hirsh and Rich Fisher.
Fish, let's just get right into it here because we're not disagreeing on what our game of the week is this week. Hopewell Valley taking on Seneca, a pair of 4-1 teams. This game goes off at a special start time tonight at 7:15 at Seneca High School. This game, of course, a rematch of last year's South Jersey Group 3 semifinals. Hopewell Valley was looking to advance to the championship game, preserve their undefeated season, and Seneca said, nuh-uh-uh. They came into Hopewell Valley, beat them 28-25 in that game. So the storylines really write themselves for this matchup. And for Hopewell Valley, while many of the starters from that Bulldog team have since graduated, there are still a lot that are around. And the guys that weren't starting that game, they were on the sidelines, and now they get to be a part of it this year. So this is just a good old-fashioned revenge game for Hopewell Valley.
Yeah, it sure is. It's definitely a no-brainer as far as the game of the week goes. You know, both teams are enjoying another great year. Seneca's 6th and South Jersey 3 with a UPR of 6. Hopewell's 9th with a 9.4 UPR. So this is not only a revenge game, but a huge game to jockey for playoff seeding down the line. One difference is while Hopewell has nearly an entirely new starting lineup, Seneca has brought back a standout quarterback and a pretty good crew of players from their defense from last year. So, you know, they do have some experience in a big game like this.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about Seneca here in just a little bit because their quarterback, Anthony Tirico, his number is really for his career just off the charts. But Hopewell Valley, they got to be liking where they're at going into this matchup. The run game, it continued to cook last week. 253 yards on just 25 total carries and 4 touchdowns. But the big story last week against Allentown, quarterback Grayson Vlasic. I talked about it on the show last week, right? I wanted to see more out of him, and boy, oh boy, did he deliver. He went 14 of 21, a career-high 233 yards and 3 touchdowns. He added 7 carries for 83 yards as well. So we all already knew that Hopewell Valley, they're one of the best teams in the area. But after that game last week, their case now to win the sectional tournament, it becomes even more credible. If they're able to get past this 4-1 Seneca team on the road tonight, they may have to be considered the favorites to do what they could not do last year, and that's win a sectional tournament.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it makes them the favorite because you've got some really heavy hitters in this bracket. I mean, Homedale, Burlington Township, and Somerville are the top 3 teams in South Jersey 3 UPR, and Somerville won the Central Jersey title last year. So it's with the way this, you know, we've been talking about it off the air, and this system of setting up the brackets at the end of the season is so very convoluted. We do know that the top team goes into one bracket, the second team goes in another bracket, and then they do what they call snaking in the other teams back and forth in these brackets. And, you know, there's a good chance that Hopewell might not even be in the same bracket as Seneca. One could be in South, one could be in Central. But that being said, taking playoff possibilities aside, a win in this game would give Hopewell a ton of confidence as it moves forward. That's for sure. I mean, this is the best team that will play since opening night against Montgomery, which is 4-1, by the way, and Hopewell took them into overtime. With Grayson Vlasic showing what he can do, you've got a more balanced offense going at it now, and this is a massive game. I mean, I'm not going to say it would make them the favorite just because there's so many good teams in that bracket, but it would make them one of the favorites, I would think, yeah.
Yeah, and Hopewell Valley in this matchup, their defense, we alluded to it just a little bit ago, right? Their defense, they're going to have to contend with Seneca junior quarterback Anthony Tirico. Tirico's kind of having a down year passing. He's got just 596 passing yards. He went over 1,800 for his first 2 seasons of his career. And he's just a junior, by the way, and he's only halfway through his junior season. For his career, he has over 6,000 total yards, which is just almost unfathomable. I mentioned the down year passing. He's more than making up for that on the ground. 58 carries, 528 yards, 5 touchdowns. He has 12 total touchdowns on the season. That brings his career total to 58. The reason Tirico's numbers may be down this year, it's not just Tirico using his legs, but Seneca has just a heavy emphasis on the run game this season. They've got senior running back Brody Phillips, who's rushed for 438 yards on 53 carries. He has 4 rushing touchdowns. You combine that with Tirico's running ability, the team already has over 1,000 rushing yards through 5 games. They're averaging 8.4 yards per carry. So we do all this talking about the Hopewell Valley offense, but this is easily the biggest test of the season for the defense.
Yes, it is. I mean, there's nothing tougher for a defense than a quarterback that can throw and run. I mean, this is where a defense, everybody's got to play their assignment. I don't know if you put a spy on Tirico. I mean, you got to be aware of everything. Now, Hopewell got a little taste of that last week with Allentown and their RPO, and they held the Redbirds to 7 points, but I think this is going to be a lot bigger challenge for sure. And they just have to. Everybody's got to stay in their spots, and it's like coaches say, defense. Everybody's got to do their 1/11th, and that's what you got to do in a game like this.
Yeah, this is going to be just a really good game, I think. Both of these teams incredibly talented. And that leads me to my prediction. I already gave one polled prediction. I'm going with another one here. I've got Hopewell Valley winning this game 24-23. However, I've got them doing it in a nail-biting, excruciating way for their fans. I think they win it on a walk-off touchdown and then go for 2 and convert that, and that's how they win.
Well, that is one heck of a prediction, my friend, and I will be keeping a close eye on that. I don't think it's going to be as dramatic. I hate to pick against the local team, but I think Seneca's going to win this one 28-20.
All right. Well, we've got then a pair of one-score games, and I will say this, Fish, that if Hopewell Valley wins in the way that I said they're going to win with the walk-off touchdown and 2-point conversion, I get bragging rights forever if it actually comes down to that.
Yes, you sure do. I mean, yeah, and I will write it down that you did make that prediction, and we will put it in the annals of WBCB history.
Well, all right, we got a chance at some WBCB lore in this game, but we got to keep moving along because we got another rivalry game to get to now. Hamilton West taking on Nottingham. This game goes off tomorrow at noon here on WBCB. Now, Fish, Hamilton West, they cruised past West Windsor last week, 42-0. And as we predicted, Mike Papero, he experimented with a bunch of different things in the run game now that they've got to deal with life without Brian Boswell for the foreseeable future. 6 different running backs got at least 1 carry. The 2 standouts were Quazair Williams, who had 4 rushes for 63 yards and a touchdown, and then Deshaun Jones had 2 carries for 59 yards and a score. Now Hamilton West faces another team near the bottom of the standings. I would think we're going to see a similar game plan tomorrow.
Yeah, you're probably right. I mean, we don't know what the status of Boswell is, but those guys, they did show a little bit, but now you're stepping up in I mean, Nottingham's not having a great season, but it's a step up from West Windsor. So yeah, I mean, we'll see what those guys can do, and if they can do it against a little bit tougher defense. And Colin Bresler has to show he can throw the ball. He's thrown the ball not too bad this year. The big thing with him is interceptions. He's thrown 6 with 5 touchdown throws, and he's got to cut back on that. And now these guys, now we'll see if Willimus and Deshaun Jones, we'll see get a little more better indication of just how good they are if they get the heavy carries this week.
Yeah, again, it's tough for Hamilton West having to navigate now without Brian Boswell. And we mentioned it last week, a lot more falls on the shoulders of Colin Bresler. And the running game now, that Mike Papero just kind of experimenting around with things. But you talked about Nottingham, a step up in competition from West Windsor. Good for Nottingham last week. They broke out and they ran away with their first win of the year, 34-13 over Heightstown. And I guess we were wrong when we talked about there being a quarterback change, because Milo McGuire started James Rumpf, who went 11 for 15, 160 yards, 2 touchdowns, and interception. Also 13 carries for 92 yards. He was a 12th-man TD Club Player of the Week. And after last week, I suppose we should expect to see Rumpf now as the signal caller moving forward, right? So I'll be very interested to see how he fares against this stout Hamilton West defense.
Yeah, I will too. I mean, we kind of were wondering and thought maybe he might go back to Vasquez, but yeah, Rumpf had a really solid game last week, and maybe Nottingham found something with him. Having another game under his belt and a good game at that, it has to make him feel a little more confident. But he is going up against a really tough Hornet defense. They've only allowed just over 10 points per game this year. They are hurt a little bit if Boswell's still out at the linebacker position, but for the most part, they have a strong defense. And Rumpf does give Nottingham a fresh look, so let's see how West adapts to that. They've been used to going against Vasquez the last couple of years, so we'll have to see. They call this the backyard brawl, and it's usually the records are, like they say, thrown out the window. It's going to be a knockdown drag out, and I don't see this as any different.
And Fish, you're going to be on the call. You've got a busy weekend. You're on the call for this one as well. So again, you don't have to make the prediction for the backyard brawl. I'm throwing the records out the window. I do think Hamilton West still wins this game, but I think this is another one that comes down to the wire. I've got the Hornets winning it 21-19.
All right. Well, I think you're right about it coming down to the wire. Since I don't have to make a prediction, I won't say who gets to the wire first.
All right. Well, hey, let's move on because we got another Hamilton team in action on WBCB tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Steinert hosting Moorestown. The Spartans are 4-1. Moorestown is 1-4. And Steinert just keeps on winning, and Isaac Pate just keeps on getting better. Picked up their first win over Notre Dame since 2011 last week. Pate put up those 217 yards on the ground. He was 10 away from matching his career high. And now the Spartans face a Moorestown team fresh off their first win of the season, albeit it did come against a winless Haddon Heights squad. But the first 4 weeks, Moorestown, they were outscored 129-16. They don't feature much of a threat in the run game, just 2.4 yards per carry as a team. Their sophomore quarterback, Jake Eckert, is still early on in his development process. This season, he's 34 for 70, 451 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. So if Steinert just keeps doing what they've been doing, they should have no problems tomorrow.
Yeah, on paper it would seem that way, but the one thing Steinert cannot do is they cannot suffer a letdown. I mean, I was at the game last week, and they were really, really excited about finally beating Notre Dame. And, if you're Steinert's coaches, you really had to get this team to refocus this week and not take Moorestown lightly. They still have to get their blocking schemes right. They still have to avoid turnovers. They can't make silly penalties. They can't let their minds wander. They have to just take care of business this week. And I think for the most part, I think this coaching staff has done a good job, and they'll have these guys ready for this game. And yeah, if Steinert's ready, I think they should be favored in this one.
And the Spartans, Fish, they've got a real interesting schedule to close out the season as well. Next week they have a bye, which really could not have come at a better time because the following week they face off with Hopewell Valley in what could be the game of the year in Mercer County, depending on what goes on now these next couple of weeks. But after that, they take on Nottingham, and then it's playoff time. So there's a very real possibility we're talking about a one-loss Steinert team going into the postseason. What Thaddeus Richards and that group have done this season, all with a sophomore quarterback that hasn't really found a rhythm yet, it's incredibly impressive.
Yeah. Thaddeus and the staff are getting compliments from all around. I mean, I hear a lot of people that are in football that have complimented the job that this staff has done. And, you look at LaGuardia, he took a big step forward last week. He threw his first 2 touchdown passes of the season. He's been really good on that quarterback draw that the Spartans run. They used it to get the game-sealing first down on 4th and 3 last week. So LaGuardia has, he's had a chance to ease into the fray thanks to Pate, and he has been developing. And, I think, it'll be interesting to see how much more Steinert begins to use him down the road. And this could be one of those games where they say, okay, let's see what our quarterback can do.
Well, let's make our predictions on this game because we got still a lot to get to here in the show. I think Steinert, they're going to handle business. I've got them winning 35-10.
Yeah, I say 28-7.
All right, so we're both in agreement there with Steinert getting a big win over Moorestown. Now, because of all the interdivisional play this week, we couldn't get to every Mercer County team. So, Fish, I know you want to talk about some of the other remaining games that feature some Mercer County squads. Those games being Delran, they're taking on Heightstown tonight at 6 o'clock. Ewing hosts Kipp Academy at 6 o'clock tonight. At 7 tonight, Princeton, they're 4-1, going up against a 4-1 Holy Cross Prep squad. And then tomorrow, interesting start time, Saturday, 6 p.m. start. Robbinsville travels, and they take on Bordentown, a 3-1 team.
Yeah, Delran, Heightstown, that's just going to, Heightstown's struggling. Delran's playing well. I think that's going to be a tough night for the Rams. This Kipp Academy, I'm sure people don't know about this team. This is only their 4th year of existence, but they've improved every year. They were 6-4 last year. They're 3-1 this year. So based on the record, they could be a tough threat to Ewing's 3-game win streak. They have a good quarterback in Davion Crossways who can run and throw it, but the Devils are feeling pretty good about themselves. So, let's see if they can keep taking care of business. Princeton and Holy Cross, this is a big one for the Little Tigers. They can possibly improve their UPR in South Jersey 4. And after this game, they have 3 winnable games against Nottingham, Trenton, and West Windsor. Holy Cross is just a big test right now. They have a good quarterback and a strong running game. So I think this game will show Princeton kind of where it's at against really good competition. And Robbinsville, Bordentown, the question here is, will Gavin Jablonowicz return from his injury? He missed last week's game against Princeton, and the Ravens were shut out, despite a decent job by Jablonowicz's replacement, William Raftery. So if Jablonowicz plays, I think the Ravens have a shot. If not, I think Bordentown's going to go up to 4-1. So that is it. That's all I have to say.
There we go. Some rapid-fire Mercer County football talk. Fish, that's why you're the Mercer County Hall of Famer. And that's also why you get out early on all of these shows, because when we come back, I'm going to be talking about Pennsbury and Neshaminy here on the Bucks County side of the river. Fish, thanks so much for joining me once again this week.
All right, Jordan. Thanks, buddy.
Well, there you go. That was the Mercer County Hall of Famer, Rich Fisher. Fish on the phone, as we like to call him here on Friday Night Hype. But all right, do not go anywhere because we've got a few minutes remaining in this show. When we come back, we're going to talk about Neshaminy and Pennsbury, a couple Bucks County teams with some real big games this week. So stay tuned. You're listening to Friday Night Hype right here on WBCB 1490 AM, 107.3 FM, and on YouTube at WBCB Sports.
Capital Health's primary care network continues to grow, bringing its extensive option of locations to your neighborhood. Whether you're scheduling a wellness checkup or not feeling well, advanced medicine starts with a Capital Health primary care doctor at locations near you in Mercer, Bucks, and Burlington counties. To find a Capital Health primary care location that's convenient for you, visit capitalmedicalgroup.org. That's capitalmedicalgroup.org.
Today's show is proudly sponsored by Anthony Petsis and Associates, voted the best financial advisory firm in Bucks County for 13 years by the Bucks County Courier-Times. Anthony Petsis and Associates delivers people-centered advice, empowering you to take control of your financial future with confidence. Their firm is committed to helping your family build and preserve wealth for the next 100 years. If you're interested in becoming a client of the top-rated financial advisory firm in Bucks County, please contact Anthony Petsis and Associates at 215-968-6638. That's 215-968-6638. You can also visit their website at apetsis.com. Anthony Petsis and Associates. If you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there.
Join Stephen Lawler the third Saturday of this month for Slobber Knocker Showdown. Listen as Stephen updates you on the world of wrestling from last week and takes your call at 215-949-3232. Slobber Knocker Showdown with Stephen Lawler the third Saturday of the month from 1 to 2 p.m. right here on 1490 WBCB and 107.3 FM, as well as heard around the world at WBCB1490.com.
You're listening to Friday Night Hype on WBCB 1490 AM and 107.3 FM. Friday Night Hype is proudly brought to you by the Capital Health System and Anthony Petsis and Associates. Now back to your hosts, Jordan Hirsh and Rich Fisher.
A few more quick minutes before we get out of here on a Friday evening, and let's talk about the two Bucks County schools. Neshaminy up first. They've got a big game going off tonight at 7 o'clock. I'll be on the call alongside Rob Gilmore from Heartbreak Ridge for senior night. The 5-1 Skins taking on the 6-0 Pennridge Rams. Winner of this game gets first place in the Suburban 1 League National Division. This is a very tough test for Neshaminy. They're coming off a big-time win over CB West last week. But Pennridge, they might be the most well-rounded team in the SOL National Division. Neshaminy certainly has their work cut out for them. Skins did beat the Rams 38-3 on the road last season, but this is a surprise team in really all of Bucks County in Pennridge. They won just 4 games last year. They've already won 6 this year. So I think if Neshaminy just continues to do what they've been doing, and they've gotten some real big wins already this season, I think them having it being senior night as well, they're going to come out energized, and if they just keep doing what they're doing, they're going to have a real good shot in this game. I'll be on the call, so I'm not going to make a prediction for this one. One game that I will make a prediction for here in Bucks County, Pennsbury taking on Central Bucks West. Falcons keep on keeping games close, but they just haven't really been able to get over the hump. The offense has really struggled this season. Falcons at 0-6. Central Bucks West, a very good squad, just fell to Neshaminy last week, so I got a chance to see them up close. A very run-heavy team. Their quarterback, Louis Sapalo, very talented in the run game. They've also got their running back, Nick Mileto, who's a real physical guy. He was kind of in and out towards the end of the game, dealing with an injury, but he should be available for the Bucks in this game as they take on Pennsbury. So for the Falcons, unfortunately, I think it's going to be more of the same. I think the defense does enough to keep them in this game. Unfortunately, life without Jordan Brenzinger has been very tough for the Falcons. I don't think they're going to have quite enough offense to be able to come out on top. I've got CB West winning this game by the final score of 21-7. So I do think the Falcons are able to score a touchdown for the first time in a few weeks. but unfortunately, I don't think Pennsbury is going to be able to get the win. That game goes off 7 o'clock tonight from CB West. The Falcons finally end their trek through the Central Bucks teams. Chris Ermer, Gus Barber, Ben Goldstein, they've got the call, as they do each and every week for Pennsbury Falcon football on WBCB Sports. And all right, that's about all the time we've got here on the show. I thank Rich Fisher for joining me for the first 3 segments. Big shout out to our sponsors, Anthony Petsis and Associates, as well as the Capital Health System, for making today's show, as well as every Friday night hype show, possible. And I thank you all for listening, whether it's on the radio side, WBCB 1490 AM, 107.3 FM. For you guys, Glenn Jones is next. And over on the YouTube side, a big shout out to all of you listeners over there at WBCB Sports. Make sure you stay tuned the rest of the evening as well as into tomorrow. A lot of great high school football action going on WBCB Sports. But until next week, I say thank you for listening and have a great weekend, everybody.